if you add the years when I was a student here, I have all the staff beat.
Oh, the new sub went here too. Do you know it?
New sub?
You didn't hear?
Hear what?
Oh. Mrs. Ratcliffe quit
What?
last Friday. It's amazing we were able to find someone so quickly.
What's their name?
Cameron Noodle.
Cameron Noodle?
Yeah. Do you know him?
Yeah.
I mean, no. I don't think so. I mean, it was a big school even back then. Couldn't know everybody, and certainly not the. Never mind. Oh, look at the time. I have to get back to the kitchen. Bye, Jerry. Bye.
Devising is just doing a show without a script pre-written ahead of time. My background is in devising, but this is my first time I've ever worked with a playwright in the room, which has been incredibly exciting.
Sometimes the mistake we make as artists and what people maybe think of devising is that it's not grounded or that we're making it up or that we don't have any kind of a plan when it couldn't be further from the truth. When you devise something, you establish a set of parameters.
So usually you start out with a theme or a concept, maybe a title, maybe a character. And for Love Like Tuesday, we started out with 90s rom-com set in a high school. And as we worked, the 90s kind of fell away, but we kept the idea of rom-com and high school.
Can we think of some scenes that some young love would happen or that love stories would happen, or more qualities, this idea of time standing still?
We started with Doug Robinson, our playwright.
What I like about working with Faction of Fools is I have actors to play with from day one.
And we all each told a story of young love. So we started with theme, with the question of what does young love look like, and can young love exist in older bodies, and what happens when love either matures or ages or just keeps going.
Oh, can we turn and look, and you guys have to duck?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
We had a wonderful character workshop where everybody invented their own character that they saw. Then Doug went away and wrote a frame of what he thinks happens in this show.
As a playwright, sometimes people can assume that the play begins and ends here, and then it goes on to a next phase when it gets to a director, and then a third phase when it gets to actors, and a fourth phase when it gets to audiences. But the beautiful thing about devising is all of those phases can kind of happen in a similar and same moment.
You know, to be brought in this early in a project is really kind of spectacular, to be involved, you know, as it's being formed together with actors, with the director, with the writer in the room.
We had recordings, we had a big roll of paper that had the themes and ideas written on it, and from that we did gameplay and improvisation to see, okay, so if we're serving lunch, right, how does Faction of Fools serve lunch?
Sloppy Joes! Sloppy Joes!
Brace yourselves!
The students pour in with a theatrical flourish of food service.
Hold your positions. Hold!
With food on their trays, the students then sit at lunch tables.
See? I told you it would all work.
Yeah. That sounds great. And then at the end it's, see? I told you it would all work. Cheese!
I believe this is the first time that Faction has undergone a process like this, where we have devisers in the room live creating something, and a playwright who's there to kind of capture that. Because anyone who devises will tell you that the creativity in the room is so inspiring and fun, but then when it actually comes to writing down a script for your designers, it is the literal worst. So we've designed this very well for ourselves.
I always fall in love with this part of the process when we have like the simplest version of the idea. And sometimes, once we're in the theater, I'm always trying to chase that idea, because sometimes it ends up being that was the, clearest, most vibrant version of what we're trying to tell.
The biggest rule is that the best idea always wins. So that even if someone starts out with an idea that might be like, I don't think that's the thing, but let's play with it, and then that leads to somebody else having an idea and they say, ooh, what about that idea? Which leads to the third person saying, ooh, I've got it, and everyone goes, that's it.
It says here she just quit and moved to Idaho.
Oh. Flashback. The square root of 170. No. No.
Mrs. Radcliffe. Quit. Possible Russian spy. Never to be seen again. Sloppy Joes for lunch.
Mrs. Radcliffe. Quit. Possible Russian spy. Never to be seen again. Sloppy Joes for lunch.
What was really cool for this process is we did a collaborative mask design process with our mask designer and company member and staff member, Tara Carriazo of Waxing Moon Masks. She's Faction of Fools' resident mask maker and our Commedia and style consultant.
As a mask maker, I make theatrical masks. I generally make them out of neoprene. Sometimes we do paper mache as well. And I think for this process, we're going to be very specific about creating them to the individual actors' faces.
Where is it matching my lip?
Where you want it to.
Great, okay.
Where you want it to, so we'll fit it to you.
So far, I think the mask is making me learn more about my character itself, because in making the mask, we already were doing the character work. Like Tara was asking us questions about our character and who she really is.
I have to be in communication and collaboration with them, with the actors, about what they're feeling moving forward and backwards in the character. So lots of opposition, what are the conflicts the character creates and experiences.
It's just very collaborative and has made me think about my character like I never did before, because we're thinking about, in building the mask, what is our character kind of hiding behind and showing to the rest of the world.
And then I asked him to go to prom with me, and then he was like, what? So I repeated myself, and then he said, no, I heard you, I was just taking a moment to process. So I was like, will you go to prom with me? So now I've asked him like 3 times in less than a minute, and then he says, no. And I'm like, what? And he says, no. And I'm like, no, I heard you. I was just taking a moment to process.
I think it allows us to remember that theater is always storytelling, and storytelling is inherently theatrical. Sometimes I think we can get bogged down by this fourth wall aesthetic, but in the creation of Mask and the creation of these moments with the audience, it is reminding us that, oh, we're all here engaging in a playful form of storytelling. And it reminds us that we ourselves can also be playing along.
I have long enjoyed the idea that the masks we wear are actually magnifying glasses. And by putting the mask on, we will help clarify the material that has been in front of us.
The idea is it's kind of like a lighthouse, right? It amplifies whatever is already happening in them and gives them like a strong tool for amplifying that outward longer and further.
Sometimes the designers think of this beautiful design and then it's placed on the actor and the actor has to make it work. So even if you're given a costume, for example, and you're like, oh, I did not see my character wearing something like this, there's sometimes no room for collaboration.
For devised pieces where you're using your own energy, you're using your own life information and experience to create a role, you know,
It just seemed really backwards to then slam a character mask on somebody that wasn't relevant to them and ask them to try to emote through that.
We are having a lot of discussion back and forth with the mask maker to design masks specifically to fit how we envision the characters.
Our company, Waxing Moon Masks, is engaging in changing lots of the processes that are associated with mask performance, mask making for shows, and the relationship in collaboration between a mask maker and the person who wears the mask, the actor.
Tara and Sarah and Francesca reached out to all of us actors in the production and thought, okay, well, what are some archetypes that you see for your character? What are some qualities you see of this character?
As I dug deeper, I started to see that there was a difference that needed to be made between what is a stereotype and what is an archetype. Stereotypes tend to be generalizations. And they also almost always tend to have a really negative connotation. What archetypes offer is very similar if you aren't looking for the differences. Archetypes are patterns of things. So we think about a blueprint.
Juniper was inspired by like my grandmother and a lot of my aunties. So it was very interesting and very fun getting to play her.
Also important is that an archetype is not almost always considered negative. Generally, these are attributes that you think of for yourself as being something that I recognize in myself. So it's coming from the inside out.
For the character of Cameron Noodle, who I play, Tara, our mask designer, and I had some conversations looking at him through a little bit of the lens of both the lover and the hero. He sort of takes on some of those characteristics at different points in our story.
It's a way of talking about characteristics that gives agency rather than judgment.
We also had the tool that she suggested of using rasas, which are sort of another lens through which we can see character. And the rasas that I found I was being drawn to were his sense of awe and wonder, but he has a healthy dose of fear as well. Fear of failure, fear of being seen.
Why did you run?
I'm sorry I left you at the carnival.
I don't want an apology, Cameron. I want to know why you won't talk to me.
Because I'm scared of you.
So once we realized that we could kind of separate the harm, then we understood that the essential characteristics we can center on are archetypes. And why not build characters from those that are of now?
Juniper is a firecracker. She's a cool, foxy old lady. So obviously, she has a lot of joy. She has a lot of joy in her.
He is so crabby today.
There's also a little bit of underlying anger because with old age, like, you know, she can't really explode as a firecracker the way she did when she was younger.
Barry.
What?
Barry.
What?
Barry!
What? Sorry.
Why are you yelling? I'm right next to you.
Because you keep calling my name.
Teddy, I feel like is more of like a rebel, right? This is someone who, he's rejected even just speaking.
That is a very complicated question.
At first, I wasn't sure whether he was going to play like an instrument or whether he was going to have to voice this out. So I was asking, like, I want to make sure, like, whatever works, I want to look. It looks like he's blowing an instrument, like a horn of some kind. And then also at the end, of course, spoilers. You know, when he goes to spike the punch, I was like, all right, this is very much a rebel character.
Spiking this punch is a statement against the structures that say that at 18, I can have a gun and go to war, but I can't have a drink to send me off.
At first, I wanted even like a kind of like a Ziggy Stardust kind of look, but you know, thankfully, you know, in our discussions, like over email, it was like, okay, that might be a bit much. But you know, she still was able to put some very strong, kind of like, not necessarily aggressive, but very mischievous face for Teddy.
This was my first foray into a collaborative mask design process, and I thought like, oh, I'm sure it'll be fine. Whatever a mask designer does, I trust Tara, it'll be great.
When I get the archetypal information from them, I use that to create sculpture. Well, sketch first, and then the sketches I give to the actors and I say, is this the right direction?
the first sketch that Tara came back with, I found that I didn't give her the ideas that I had really decided on.
With Kathryn, we had a piece. She was like, "Oh gosh, the information I gave you was not what I wanted," and so we went backwards.
And then we found together a more appropriate design for this certain character. So this is Jerry. She's bold. She's not afraid to say what's on her mind. She's a proud woman. And when I first got the first sketch from Tara, her lines were a little bit harsher, a little bit more angular. But when I saw that, I thought, you know, I think there's more softness to her, because I think you need a lot of flexibility and softness to be a high school guidance counselor. So when Tara came back with a new design, she still has that bold strength, but she has a little bit more voluptuousness about her, a little bit more softness and flexibility that I really think Jerry needed.
If I hadn't had that back and forth with her, I wouldn't have known, even though I started with the archetypal information that was the same.
What was really empowering was this mask design process. Something so intimate as going on your face is the actor was empowered to say, you know, hey, can we talk about this? Can we collaborate? And then something really beautiful was found between the designer and the actor.
Ms. Fredericks, could you describe the image in the bottom corner of this flyer?
It's a picture of a condom wearing sunglasses and giving the surfer dude hand sign.
Well,
if you're going to invest the time into designing for a show and doing the fittings and sitting through the tech process, what makes the most sense is to be in a tech process where you get to laugh through the whole thing. And I think just watching clowns perform work like Faction of Fools does brings me so much joy.
This is where Doreen can hide, and then I can still absolutely.
When you can sit there and watch it like develop organically.
Being a little bit higher than...
Yeah.
And like the surprise of something changing in the room and like just like being so funny.
You're going to lean and
It's just joy. It's joy bottled, joy shared. I've learned so much. I've gotten to work with so many extraordinary people, and it's been a complete and absolute silly blast.
It's rare that I go to a full comedic performance and find a kind of revelation through comedy, which I think is actually one of the easiest and purest ways to have revelation, through laughter, through that bodily response.
Something that does that, you know what I'm talking about? But I also think that...
No.
It does karate, all right? It just does karate.
Oh, okay. It's not, I would go above down. Yeah.
Faction trusted me enough to make them laugh, to make us all laugh. And it's kind of lovely.
Cameron Noodle, did you write me a note?
Back in high school,
And you kept it all this time?
I was visiting my parents, went through the desk in my room and found it.
Oh! Will you go out with me? Check yes or no. P.S. I hope you check yes.
It's silly.
Saturday?
I thought I was asking you.
We are asking each other. This Saturday?
Sounds great.